going on? RGIJ is back, baby.
People think I'm like legit.
It sounds like a great book, and I really want to ask you though. Are there really people out there that think that people with dyslexia are dumb? Like they're really. So for real, there's people out there that be like, "Yo, this guy is dumb," even though is it because they don't understand what dyslexia is, and they're just like.
It's even the definition of dyslexia. It's considered a learning disability. So even starting the concept that having dyslexia is a learning disability is like putting it into a negative thing when it's not really a learning disability. You just have a different way of learning, honestly, all it is. You just don't learn like the rest of everybody does.
Right.
And so it's just the way your brain works, but your brain has a lot of skill sets that it's really fucking good at. There's just other things it's not good at. It's just how everything is, right? Like it just so happens the way you comprehend things. And you know, if you go back, like, so, you know, I'm older, so when we're talking about 80s and 90s, right, going to school, you know, it wasn't really well known about being dyslexic. It wasn't, right. You thought you were a fucking slacker or, you know, those type of things. And honestly, I come from a poor neighborhood, so, I mean, of course, the fucking teachers ain't really thinking, oh, this kid got dyslexic. They're just like, he's another trouble kid like the fucking other dumb fucks over here, you know, that are all trouble. They're all gang members and da-da-da-da, you know what I mean? So I think that also had to play with it. So I think, you know, that's there's something like that. Like, but if you are dyslexic though, I do believe you do think you are dumb because you're young and you haven't learned yet that, you just learn different, right? But you're going to school and you're reading a book and you don't understand shit. Of course you're going to feel that way. And I know some parents, man, their kids are dyslexic and they're terrified, man. They feel bad. They're like, oh my God, my kid is dyslexic. I don't know what to do. I'm so worried. I'm like, dude, your kid's a fucking genius, man. Just tell your kid, get through this stuff. They have to learn how they learn. But once they do, they're going to fucking kill this world because your brain, like my brain is thinking about something completely different. That's why you and I work really well together. I work on things that you're not good at and you work on your good things I don't work at. So now we're a super team. So once you get even a team atmosphere of that shit, it's like, oh, fuck yeah. Like, it's great.
So is it hereditary? Like with your daughters, is there a possibility they might be dyslexic and stuff like that?
Yeah, there's a possibility. I've had my youngest tested for it. And that's one of the things when I talk to the school counselors, I'm like, hey, I'm dyslexic. So I really want to make sure they're good to go. And they understand. As soon as I say, hey, I'm dyslexic, and I just check it, they get it. They're like, okay, cool. We'll test.
So who else in your family is dyslexic besides you?
I don't know, man. You know, like there's some people that like, you know, I say, but there's some people you kind of wrote off and be like, they're kind of idiots. That a dozen of family. Like, maybe they weren't. Maybe they weren't dyslexic. But I don't know, man. I would hate to. I'm giving people benefit of the doubt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I was saying about
That's good, though. I'm glad that there is literature like that for you to be able to gain more insight on that and be able to talk to your daughter about if, God forbid, you know, the possibility of her being dyslexic arises later on in her life or somewhat. But it gives you a better understanding. So, I mean, it's true. Like you said, for me, going through school, I had the special ed class. You know what I'm saying? Where they put these kids that weren't adjusting to the class, they didn't get the information, stuff like that. But we saw special ed as, you know, I don't mean no ill will by saying it, but they were the dumb kids, you know what I'm saying? Because they came in on a special bus for them and everything else. And it wasn't that they were disabled. They were functioning, they were able to play sports and everything else. But again, they just couldn't adjust to what's 2 times 2. You know, in this sentence of Moby Dick, what did the author mean by it just didn't click to them right away, you know? So growing up at that time, you didn't understand these titles, these labels that were given to them. You just saw them as special ed kids, or they were the R word, you know? You just didn't go any further than that. But now it's great that there's actually people that are writing about things like that, especially with autism. You know, I know a lot of my childhood friends or good friends whose kids now, or some of them are autistic, not high on the spectrum, not low on the spectrum, maybe in between. But now they have more with so much literature and research and you know, different resources out there. They have different facilities, you know, even schools for that type of stuff that they're able to educate themselves to be able to help them, you know, with their children. So when they do have an episode or depending on which side of the spectrum they're on, that they're able to handle it and not be scared of it, you know, not fear it, because God forbid if my mom back in the 80s and 70s and 80s, if one of us was like, out of control with autism or stuff like that, who knows what she would have been, how she would have been looking at us. You know what I'm saying? Or she would have been like, man, I can't take care of this kid because he's constantly this and this and that. You know, so it's great that that's out there for you guys. But I'm happy. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Well, actually, in Japan, man, what's fucking weird about Japan? So it was a couple years ago. There was a guy who went into like a mental hospital, right? So like for people that are having mental issues that are kind of like, you know, they need help, right? They're mentally disabled. Right. And he went in there with a knife and killed like, I think 12 of them.
Wow.
So the fucked up thing about Japan, man, is Japan they don't talk about that shit. So there was a lot of those people who never got identified because the family refused to identify them as their family because it would be publicly known they had somebody who had mental issues in their family.
They're about image, right?
Yeah,
like
man.
Image.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's fucked up. But again, you know, like when you think about those things, man, and like here we are, right? If somebody has some kind of issue or some of those type of things, man, there's way, like, you know, like if somebody is autistic or something like that, they can still live a life. They can get a job.
Absolutely.
They can do things. And we actually, like, there's places that make sure that happens. So it's not always, you know what I mean? I think that's the kind of like, sometimes we take for granted that, hey man, we live in a good fucking country, man. We live in a great fucking place because stuff like that. You have an issue, like there are people who will literally dedicate their lives to make sure you're good. Right. You're not dependent for the rest of your life, right? And if you are, how can we help the person helping you type of thing? So I think that's also another one because lately, I don't know. Actually, you know what? I think we can end on this one, man. I think this would be a good place to end. And I think this might be controversial. If it is, well, fuck these people anyways, because like all 5 of y'all that are listening, like fuck the rest of those people, right? So we don't care. Anyways, there's more than that, by the way. Like I think we're at like 80 million people listening to us, by the way. So fucking famous.
Is the dyslexia kicking in right now?
No, but what I would say though is, you know, like, what do you think about these people that are really fucking anti-American that talk all this shit about America and they've never been, or like they have very little exposure to how fucked up this world can be? What do you think about those things?
I think for me, honestly, is social media has made it worse because these anti-Americans, the only way you knew of their existence was through watching it to the news. You know what I'm saying? Growing up, very rarely did any of us talk politics. Very rarely did we even talk about the wars that were going on. Very rarely did we look at the president and be like, oh, he's not doing a good job. Like that, our focus wasn't in on that. And now since social media has been out there to where you can be a typewriter warrior and you know, write whatever you want to write, I don't really put too much emphasis on it, man. I don't focus on it. Like I just skip the feed. I just keep scrolling. I don't even bother. And what saddens me is that no one can actually have a conversation anymore about it. You know what I'm saying? If you get into a circle, a group of friends or 1 hour, even a group of strangers, as soon as you start making reference to anything that hurts their beliefs or what they believe in, you're wrong automatically. You know what I'm saying? There's no one that just says, okay, let me hear your side, now listen to my side. I know a lot of family and friends that they have their political views, their political agenda, but when we talk, we're civil about it. You know what I'm saying? We might clown each other here and there, but it's never to the point where we're like, you're cut off. Like, I don't want to know you no more. Like I told you before, I don't know how many times I see my friend post, oh, I lost my friendship with this person because I told him that President Biden is terrible and that's his belief or whatever. So now that person no longer wants to talk to me. That's what pisses me off. And some of them, you're right. Some of them really shouldn't be talking because they haven't experienced being in the other side of the world to seeing how bad it is on the other side of the world. But again, you know, freedom of speech, man, they're going to take that platform and use it. And I even mentioned to you the other time, one of my good friends, you know, he had his comments about, you know, Black Lives Matter and everything else. And like I said, his feed was always about just negative comment, negative this, negative that, you know, negative police, negative whatever. So I responded back to him and said, hey, instead of talking, why don't you do something about it? Like, why you're not at these town hall meetings? Why you're not at council meetings, city council, whatever, talking about certain legislation or volunteering to try to do stuff about it? Where are you at with these protests if you know, if that's how big you're into it? And he took offense to that Instead of just seeing it as, oh, my boy is just commenting, you know, he's just asking, he took offense to it and made it seem like I was trying to downplay him and basically call him like, you know, he's contradicting himself or whatnot, which that wasn't my intention. My intention was serious. Like, hey, you know, if you're really adamant about it, like you're really into it, why don't you do more than just put it on your news feed? Because us as your friends that are just seeing the feed is not going to change nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, what change are you going to get from me reading your comment besides just saying, oh shit, this person's mad again? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're putting your message across the wrong people. The ones who need to be hearing your message is the ones in those council meetings, those town halls or whatever in your city or state for you to make a difference. And there are public meetings, there's public openings to where you could go and talk, you know, express yourself, because that's affecting your city, it's affecting your district, it's affecting, you know, your zone or whatever, your county. So why you put it on Facebook, you know? And that's the thing that gets me is just, again, you want to be anti-American, be anti-American. I really give two shits, because you don't know what it's like. You've never been to the Middle East. You've never been to Afghanistan. You've never been to Iraq. You've never been to Saudi. You've never been to Africa. So how the fuck you know? Yet you're bitching, complaining about a country that you live in when you have no idea how the other side is, you know? Yeah. So, I mean, I don't really focus too much on it. Like I said, I think social media fucked it up, and now they made it even worse with the whole fact checking. Like, it's just gotten dumb now, you know? Yeah. And especially that when you can't be civil about it to talk about things like that, because this young generation needs that. I feel like this young generation needs to be allowed to be open to express themselves however they want to without somebody taking offense to it. Yeah. If you're a fucking Democrat, you love Joe Biden, you voted for Joe Biden, and I tell you straight out, yo, Mike, President Biden sucks, you shouldn't get mad. You should be countering me and saying, how does he suck? Like, what makes you think that? You know what I'm saying? And then you and I could have a discussion. But it should be like, oh, Joe Biden sucks, fuck you, Israel, we're not friends no more. Because that's what it's become. Mm-hmm. Nobody could talk anymore, especially if you're anti-American. Nobody wants to even know, especially you're anti-American, you're trying to have a discussion with a veteran or a military person, then it's definitely done. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody's going to want to hear from you, you know? Yeah. But I'm willing, like you said, I'm willing to give you the benefit of the doubt. Tell me why. You know, like even now in school, I'm learning about extremists, you know, the neo-Nazis, the white supremacists and stuff like that. And my professor does a good job at, you know, giving us some like YouTube videos and stuff like that. So it's interesting to see, like, most of the time, this police just let them speak. Just let them hear what they have to say. Yeah. And then at the end of the day, you know, you read them the legalities of it, the law, and then tell them, you know, go on your way. You know what I'm saying? Because there are a lot of people out there. And what we do, we call them Karens, right? We call them calls because they're the ones who are talking so much nonsense. So we label them as sort of idiots, right? Instead of just listening to what they have to say and then just ignore them. See you later. Because you're not making change with that nonsense. You know, the change isn't with me. The change is with our Congress. That's the reason why you vote for representatives. You know, when you have the city council voters or people who are going for that, when you have, like here in Florida, you know, I've always see a lot of bulletins about vote for your next sheriff. Then go vote for your next sheriff, because if you put a sheriff in there that's not doing right by your fucking community, then whose fault is that? It's your, but what are you going to do? You're going to turn to your neighbor Raul and say, hey, this fucking sheriff sucks? Well, don't tell me. Let your voice be heard. You should have went and fucking made a vote and whatnot, you know? So for me, it's like, I could care less, man. Like I said, I have a lot of friends that talk about it. I just scroll through it. It doesn't bother me. But when I'm with my family, you know, my in-laws, when we talk about it, but we know we're not going to get mad at each other because it's just civil conversation. It needs to be talked about it sometimes. And I just feel bad for the next generation coming up, the youth, because we are making it difficult for them because they're seeing our example that we're setting by cursing each other out, you know? Yeah. So again, if I say something that's about your beliefs or your political agenda, or your political view, and you turn around and your response to me is, hey, with no more friendship, then what example are we setting for the youth behind us? They're going to be like, damn, we can't even talk about that. So might as well not talk about it. And that sucks. They should be allowed to talk about it. Right. But that's my view, man.
That's actually a lot of viewpoint for somebody who doesn't care. So just for someone who doesn't care, that's a very big viewpoint to not care about, by the way.
I'm just trying to get my point across as to why I don't care.
But yeah, you care a lot about that. That's the thing. Not like I'm really big on I'm really big on freedom, right? And I think a lot of people, and I think that's why a lot of military people are, and maybe people who've been in prison, because you know what it's like to really not have freedom. You know, for people who are not military, man, there's the best thing I love watching is when there's an election going on. And when people sit there and say, or whenever, you know, when the next president's about to be like, and he's going to have a ceremony, and you have to go out there and you hear the conversation, someone say, hey, I don't care what you think. If tomorrow, after this man is sworn in, and you talk shit, I will drop the hammer on your ass, because you are not allowed to say shit about, you know what I mean? And the look on people's eyes when they found out, oh, you mean my freedom of speech is taken away? Like 100%. And it's like, I don't care what, it's like whatever I believe in political things. And I've seen it, and I've seen it firsthand. And I was so happy that somebody was doing that. It was like, my political beliefs have nothing like that. That's the boss. You talk shit about the boss, I'm dropping the hammer on you, just FYI. And they were like, oh shit. And it's like, yeah, freedom gone. You know, so they didn't know that, because they were, you know, in around at certain times, people will start making fun of whoever's in line to be president. They're jockeying forth and stuff like that. And, you know, the military is no different. They throw memes around, they have all those things, but it's like, hey man, once this person becomes the boss, they will drop the hammer on you. I don't give a fuck if I believe or this. We don't care. Like there is that you lost that right. There is that loss of freedom. And so I'm really big into freedom, you know, and I've had that conversation before with people, and they're like, well, what about people who are saying, people who are saying racist things? And it's like, yes, that's hurtful, that's rude, that's fucking thing like that. But the moment we try to silence those type of things, that's slippery slope with freedom. Because next thing you know, we just start taking everything, because that's where we're at now, right? I don't agree with you. It hurts somebody's feelings, so I got to take it away. Well, man, fucking, we can go a very deep road of what hurts people's feelings and stuff like that. So I'm really big on like, hey, freedom. And kind of like what you're saying, I mean, if you're a fucking idiot and you want to give your political viewpoints, you want to start doing that shit, go ahead, man, talk. Because after a while, people are going to look around and be like, the fuck is this dude talking about? Like, there's people that are legit talking about saying that dinosaurs are not real and that fossils are fake. There's legit videos on that stuff. I mean, there's people, flat earth people, that are really into showing that the earth is somehow not round. And they're really they really believe it. But the thing is, listen to them, and you'll hear them. And if you believe them, great. I mean, that's your own decision. But if they talk and you're like, after an hour, you're like, man, this is fucking some crazy nonsense. That's the point of having conversations with people, and you get to hear their thoughts. You're like, why the fuck am I listening to you? You're wearing Velcro shoes, and you're trying to tell me the earth is flat and then the dinosaurs are fake, but you don't even believe in shoelaces. Like, you know, there's a fucking issue. You're 40 years old and you're wearing Velcro shoes. Like, that's a fucking issue in life. Anyways, I don't know what's with me and Velcro shoes, by the way. It's a weird thing, but but anyways, those things do happen, right? And I really do. And I do agree with what you're saying. Like, if you're a veteran and someone comes at you anti-American, like, that's like, we're already off to a rocky start. That's especially if you're dealing with some of these older cats, man. You still with some of these people that spent years. Like, we know people that are fucked up. We know people that are dead, that are no longer here, and their life will never, their families will never be the same. Like, there's things still going on from the stuff they did for their country, right? And when someone's like, hey, here's that, and you're like, motherfucker. And so I think that's like, it's like almost like buyer beware type of shit like that. Like, if you're going to come up with an anti-American, cool. But if you're coming up to a veteran and they look like they fucking, piss and vinegar type of person, like, be careful about that person. Cause there's some, there's some things, but what I would say though is, one thing I've done with people is I have multiple stories from the military that I use for different people. So I've had people that sit there and say, hey, this world is the greatest thing in the world. Like, America is the worst place in the world, and that's horrible. And I'm sitting there saying, I tell them about the story about Honduras. Like, hey, we were at a club. Homeboy stepped outside the party, like the club, and got robbed in front of security guards by machete, and came back on, and they were laughing at his ass. And that was nothing wrong with it. Like, literally, that was just a normal fucking day there. Or when I was in Iraq and the shit I saw, sitting there saying, like, that shit exists in another country. They would fuck each other over as much as they could just for a buck or two. And what they would do, the things they would sell each other out for and all those things, that shit is real. But on the other hand, when someone's like, hey, this world is just so evil and nasty and all those things, it's kind of like we were talking about earlier. Man, if you have somebody who's a child or somebody who's affected by autism, there's people out there that will show that person with number love, help them out with resources. There's like, this is a great fucking world, right? And it's a great fucking country. And so I think that's that we're having that problem where people are sitting there saying, hey, we have a lot of things that we got to fix, which I agree with, but we're not that fucking bad, because you take a trip across somewhere else and fucking like even
10 times
Japan,
worse.
right? Even Japan, great place. I love that place. They, man, the way they act with you know, with pedophilia, like that's dark. Like, that's crazy. And over there, if your skin color is dark, man, they do not like you, man. There's some real shit over there. And if you're American, they will talk shit about you because you're American, right? If we go other places, there's still slavery going on. There's still like concentration camps going on, and you know, there's different places. And so I think perspective is what's needed for a lot of these people. That like, hey, this world, like this country is not that bad. It's fucking great. Not only place can we come in here and talk shit, we can go out there and protest and do whatever we want to do. Right. And even to your point, man, you can go out there and say some of the craziest shit in the world, like some of the most darkest, racist, dumb shit in the world, and people will let you do it. As long as you're orderly and peaceful, man, go ahead, do your business, man. Because why? That's a great place to be at. And not only that, I can actually be on the other side of them, shouting them out and saying, like, I don't agree with that. But as long as we're cool and respect each other in that simple process, we could be there for days. And nobody would even, like, cops would just let you do it because you're not breaking a law. That's the amazing part. Yeah. And so I think that's what's really important is perspective, because I've noticed that that's becoming a new trend now where people are really fucking anti-American. And I don't think they've ever really left America to know, are you really anti-American? Yeah. You know what I mean? Go somewhere else and get fucked over by those people because you're not one of them. You're American.
Right.
So, but
yeah, it's crazy. And we just lost our 80 million viewers.
It's fine. We're going to get them back because they're going to be like, hey, what are y'all wearing? I'm going to sit there and say, I'm starting to wear Hawaiian shirts now, which I have no idea what the fuck that means, by the way. So everyone's like, what that means? I don't know. Apparently, there's a thing if you wear Hawaiian shirts, you're some kind of affiliation. I don't fucking know.
What the fuck?
I don't know, man.
I knew with the Bloods and Crips, like if you wore red.
I'm not talking about gangbanging right now. I'm not talking about that shit. Like,
but then what affiliation with Hawaiian shirts?
It's like a political thing or some shit. There was some kind of thing going on. I believe.
Lord.
So if anyone's still listening, which I'm looking at the numbers. There's still 80,000 people still listening. So we're lucky. We're great. We're great. We got millions of people. But anyways.
Awesome.
Right. But anyways, like the thing with it though is like, I get my news source and I kind of like have a really quick thumb of like, do I give a fuck about this? Hey, the GDP just got changed. The first quarter of it's a negative number. That's okay. I'm going to pay attention to this. Hey, second quarter GDP is a negative number. Hey, so technically we're in a recession. I'm paying attention to that shit now, right? That has my attention. Hey, if you're wearing this t-shirt, you're considered this. Sorry, that cannot fill up the space. We're gone. We just delete it.
Yeah.
You know, solar panels are now becoming a climate issue because of like the trash they're collecting. That's an issue. Okay. I'm reading about those things. You know, Izzy at the Dave Matthews Band dancing and he has his nipples pierced. I got to delete that shit, man. And it's still in there rent free.
Read that. That's a good story to read. That's a good headline to read.
You have your nipples pierced?
No.
You going to do it? Will you do it?
No. Hell no.
What would it take for you to get your nipples pierced?
I wouldn't do no piercing.
Come on, your nipples? At least one?
Not even. Nope.
All right. What happens if we can get...
Yeah, but no piercing.
Come on. What happens if we can get some kind of like
you should get a Prince Albert.
No, fuck that. We're talking about you.
Oh, but Israel has to get the piercing?
You know why? Because you live a sad, lonely life. So we got to spice it up for you. All right. So what can we do to get you?
I live a sad, lonely life when you're a fucking nomad hermit. You don't leave that house. That room you stay in 24/7.
No, I'm here for 14 hours though.
You and say, hey, let's go to a bar. You don't want to go because you never leave the house.
I got my family. I'm good.
Have you seen the big yellow thing in the sky? You seen that? Does that look? You look at that stuff. Do you go outside and take walks or anything? You know, there's animals outside, birds and trees and everything to look at.
Yeah. Again, I go check the mail. That's
the most you walk. That's it.
Yeah, that's the most I'm going outside. I'm a luxury life where I can work from home and I spend 14 hours in my office. So I'm doing that shit. But anyways,
disgusting.
If we can get enough people to view this show or to get a number of subscribers, what's your number and you get your nipples pierced? What's that number? So we can run a campaign on that shit. Nobody's listening by now, so we're good. We can just talk. It's just you and me.
Where we at?
What's the number,
I would say if we could get, let me see. I go with 200.
200 what? Views?
Subscribers.
Okay, so 200 subscribers. Nipples pierced. One nipple or both nipples?
One nipple.
Okay, if we get to 500, both nipples pierced?
I'll do both nipples.
Okay, so we can get to 500 subscribers. You're piercing your nipples.
Subscribers. Yeah.
Subscribe on YouTube.
On YouTube.
Nipples pierced.
Nipples ears.
Okay. Okay. We're gonna end it here. I am going to think about how I'm gonna make ads on this shit because we can get this happening. You remind me of that dude from The Water Boy. You gotta do the Water Boy scene where the guy takes off his shirt and he has his nipples pierced. The dude who talks all crazy.
Yeah. The one that nobody can understand. The coach.
Yeah.
What?
All right, brother.
All right, bro. Latest.